Hi, folks. Andrew here, Top Fitness Strategies. I am the face who runs the place. And we have another exciting interview for you today. And this is pretty cool because we basically do the same thing. And my guest today is Kevin English, and he is a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. He is passionate about helping people and inspiring men and women over 50 become their strongest, healthiest, and most vital selves. And I can go on and on and on about it, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to bring him on here. Kevin English from silveredgefitness.com. Welcome to Top Fitness Strategies.
Hey, Andrew, thanks for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
All right.
This is my favorite subject.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And him and I, a little bit behind the scenes in the back cave type of thing. Before we went on, we had a little powwow talk a couple of days ago. And him and I, we're in such a like mindset when it comes to this fitness over 50 type thing, or health over 50, however you want to label it. Us older folks, as I always call it all the time. So we decided just to play it off the cuff. I have a few basic questions we're going to ask, but then we're just going to go on and on about that. So before we get going, and I don't want to dominate this, but it is my show. So at the beginning, I do dominate it. So at the beginning, I'm going to ask you just tell us about your background a little bit. Who are you? Where you come from?
Yeah. So, like you said, I'm Kevin English. I'm the founder of Silver Edge Fitness, and we work with folks over 50 for nutrition, health, and exercise coaching. And really, I got into this line of work probably like most coaches do, right? Through a personal life event in my life about a little over 10 years ago. I was as sick and as unhealthy as I've ever been in my life. I was overweight. I spent a few days in a hospital with a medical event. Thought I was having a heart attack. I wasn't. I was just so metabolically sick in a bunch of different ways. And I just found myself wondering, here I am. I was probably young 40s, mid 40s at the time, just wondering how I got there. I mean, before that, prior to that, I'd done marathons, I'd done some triathlons, and I had been fit earlier in my life, and then career, marriage, kids, all that. And just somehow I found myself overweight, drinking, eating crap, very, very sedentary, super stressed out with work, not sleeping. All of these things just added up to this very, very unhealthy version of me. And I didn't want to be that. And so I just slowly, after that, like I said, I thought I was having a heart attack. I was rushed to the hospital, spent a couple of days there. And it was just that turning point for me. I said, okay, I had been healthy. I knew I knew some things about eating healthy and exercising. And I just decided, okay, I'm going to turn this ship around, and just this very slow process of, learning, well, what is the best way for me to eat? What are the best exercises, modalities? How can I manage my stress? How can I do these other things? And slowly put that all together to where I am today. And I tell people now, look, I'm almost 59, and I am by all measures the fittest, healthiest I've ever been in my life. So my mission is just to kind of spread that message to other folks as well.
Okay. All right. I got to stop you right there because, and I'm not doubting you that you feel that you're in the fittest position of your life. But let's back up a second, because you told me you were a marathon runner. And if I know my marathon runners pretty good, those guys, you got to be in shape to do that. So why do you feel you're more in shape now than you were when you were running marathons?
That's a great question. So when I was running marathons, I actually, towards the end of that, at one point I never was good, but I was a mid packer in my age group. But you can get away with being a skinny fat marathon runner. There's quite a few that would meet that archetype, if you will. And I was basically thin. I was subsisting on, I could get away with eating and drinking whatever I wanted because I was just running ungodly amounts of hours every week, right? I'm just putting in these miles. So I was eating crap food and I was getting away with it. So fast forward to today, I still do some cardio. I still like jumping around and getting my sweat on, but my focus is more just building that type 2 muscle fiber, trying to be more metabolically healthy. And the diet that I was eating then is night and day from what I'm eating now. So yeah, I consider myself certainly fitter, healthier, stronger now than I was even when I was doing, say, triathlons or marathons.
Interesting. All right. Now, as you're talking, I'm writing down notes, or I'm actually typing down notes. It makes it easier for me to see everything. You just said a set of phrase or two phrases I'm going to touch on. Type 2 muscle fiber. All right. What is a type 2 muscle fiber for those of us myself.
Yeah.
I've never,
Yeah. So, and why does it matter, right?
yeah,
So a lot of your marathon runners and your endurance folks, they're all going to know slow twitch, right? That type 1 muscle fiber. And this muscle we tend to hang on to as we age. So there's a term, sarcopenia, and it refers to age-related muscle loss. And look, there's no aging is undefeated, right? There's no getting around that.
right.
However, we preferentially lose this fast twitch, this type 2 muscle fiber as we age. So for those of us over 50, it is critical not just to hang on to our type 2 muscle, but to actually build it. And there's a couple of reasons why. One is, I mean, it looks better, right? You've got more of that aesthetic look. But really, the reason you want to hang on to that type 2 muscle fiber and actually build it is it's very metabolically expensive, meaning that your body has to burn more calories just to maintain it, which, by the way, is why it's so darn hard to gain and maintain, because your body is just evolutionarily designed to do kind of the opposite. I want to pare down that metabolically expensive muscle to the bare minimum that you can do what you need to do to survive. But really what your body wants to do is store fat. So when we talk about building type 2 muscle, that's what we're talking about. I want this metabolically expensive muscle, which has this whole cascade of hormonal effects as well. You want a youthful hormone profile. One of the best things you can do is strength train to build that type 2 muscle fiber.
And I say that I've been saying this as well, but I say it a little bit differently than you do. I mean, you're more eloquent and scientific or everything. I'm more, back
Let's
alley.
hit the weights, buddy. Right? Yeah.
I tell people all the time, okay, if you feel like you're overweight, whatever that means to you, and you want to change the way you look, going on a diet and no offense to runners out there, but running a marathon all the time isn't going to get you to change your body look. I mean, yeah, you might lose the weight, but for instance, if your body's in the shape of a pear and you do that, you're going to be a skinny pear. You're not going to change the way your body looks. And like you just said, the only way to do that is to do some sort of strength training or resistance type training, as I like to put it. And from everything you said, you're basically hitting everything that I say. But once again, you say it a lot more eloquently than I do. So are you seeing a lot of people that refuse that or don't understand that concept?
I would say most people over 50 don't, right? Because if you think about it, those of us that grew up in the 70s or even 80s and earlier than that, we grew up in
Yeah,
kind of that cardio generation, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm a 60s kid myself. And we grew up in, the boom of the fitness industry was cardio and running and all of these aerobic, which are wonderful things to do, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing on cardio. I think cardio is fantastic.
Yep.
But for those of us over 50, barbells or some type of resistance training. I say barbells. It could be whatever floats your boat, right? And yes, I find that people are surprised when I say that. You want to lose weight? Let's start a resistance training program. And specifically for ladies, right? You get a 60-year-old Mrs. Jones in and she wants to lose 20 pounds. And first thing you say is, okay, do you have access to a gym? Oh, no, I don't. Do you have any home gym equipment? No. Well, could you join a gym? I suppose, but why would I? Well, we're going to have to do some resistance training. She goes, oh, well, I don't want to get big and bulky.
Exactly.
I say, first, you won't. I mean, people try very, very hard to get big and bulky and they don't, right? That's not how it works. But what you will get is you will get healthy. You will find that all of a sudden as you're building this metabolically expensive muscle, your metabolism is increasing, meaning you're burning more calories while you're at rest. And that's going to have the bigger impact long-term on your weight loss than going out and hitting the treadmill or the stair stepper or whatever you're doing 5 days a week, right?
Usually it's the ladies that tell me that they don't want to bulk up. And I always have to come back and say, listen, if you want to base yourself bulk up wise on what you see on television or these lady bodybuilders and everything else, that's great if you want to pursue that. But understand that they don't do that by lifting or working out a half hour to an hour a day. They work out 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day to get that look.
Yeah, that's a lot of work that goes into those kinds of physiques. Yes.
Yeah, it's not
casual. It doesn't happen by accident.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what, after I tell them that, I see the light bulb go off. I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, it doesn't happen. Like you said, it doesn't happen by accident. They got to do it. They work pretty hard at that kind of stuff. So, all right. So we can talk about that one all day long.
Mm-hmm.
You also mentioned something else, and I want to touch on this because this is a phrase us in the fitness and health industry say quite a bit, but I don't think too many people understand what it means. When you say the term skinny fat, what exactly is excuse me, what exactly is that to the folks that don't understand what that is?
Yeah, so skinny fat is a person who has a disproportionate amount of their body weight coming from fat rather than from muscle, and they're skinny. So typically, especially on males, what that might look like: skinny legs, skinny arms, and a beer belly, often man boobs, things like that, right?
Mhm.
And it's typically these people are weaker, right? And it's a dangerous place to be in because what again that muscle mass has got so many healthful properties, whereas excess body fat, as we now know, has no healthful properties other than long-term survival, right? If all of a sudden your food supply were cut off, you'd be good to go for a while. But short of that, having that carrying around that excess body fat with especially without that muscle mass to complement it is it's a bit of a dangerous tightrope there. And there is a woman named Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, and she talks about muscle as the organ of longevity. And she actually talks about muscle is an organ. And she's got, if you guys want to look her up, I think your audience would absolutely love her. But she's doing a lot of research and a lot of work into specifically muscle for those of us over 50.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
For those who just tuning in, I'm talking with Kevin English. He is the founder of silveredgefitness.com. And Kevin does a lot of things like myself on YouTube and podcasts. He does interviews. And that's how one of the ways I found him is we interview health and fitness folks. And so I said, I got to get this guy on here. So that's what we're talking to. All right. Now, earlier, you also mentioned that when you talk with a client, you ask them if they have access to a gym or weights and everything else. If they don't have access to a gym, and there's a specific reason I'm asking this because, well, I'll tell you, I am a huge home workout guy. I love working out at home and everything else. What equipment would you suggest somebody get at home if you're going to start training them? You say, all right, I need you got to do some sort of resistance or weights, and you don't want to go to a gym, so this is what I recommend you get.
Yeah, the bare minimum under $20, get a set of bands.
Bingo. Thank you.
Yep. On Amazon, $20-$25, you get a good quality set. They come from little skinny, easy to resistance to great big fat hard resistance. And we can do, I'm sure you could absolutely program somebody to get stronger, get fitter using nothing but bands in their home. Limited amount of space. There's really no real barriers to entry to start a resistance training program, or very low barriers, right?
I've been telling people all the time, you carry a gym with you. Body weight exercise.
Body weight, that's the other.
Fantastic as well. Now, are you going to be able to show off your body on stage by just doing body weight exercises? Probably not. But at the same key, that's not how I train, and that's not what you came to me for. You're not came to me to train to show off your body on stage. So we have to get that. I don't even want to call it a happy medium because it's not even medium. It's just basically the way I do it. Said, let's get you off the couch, making you a little bit healthier today than you were yesterday.
Right on, yeah.
Progressing that way, and I don't know if that's how your philosophy towards it or not is.
100%. Small steps done consistently lead to huge results. Big fan of that.
Absolutely. I like to keep things basic. I don't like complications in what I do. I'm not saying I can't do it that way, but it just, for me, it's a lot easier to keep track of. So, all right. So, Kevin, when I was reading your bio, you also said that you are a nutrition coach. I want to touch on nutrition for a little bit. And this has come up in my life in the last year or so quite a bit, and a lot of people have been asking me about it. Maybe because I interviewed somebody that talked about it a long time ago, and it's coming up now. What is your feelings toward fasting?
Are we talking about fasting in general, or are we talking about intermittent fasting?
Either.
Okay. Well, let's start with intermittent fasting because I think that's the buzz right now. There's just a ton of information and frankly misinformation around intermittent fasting. So a couple of things. Intermittent fasting, my personal opinion of intermittent fasting for weight loss is it's a mixed bag. I don't really like the idea of the more restrictive your diet is, the less I like it personally. And by time saying I'm only going to eat in a 6-hour time window, 4-hour time window, a 8-hour time window, whatever that is, as can you do that for the rest of your life? And do you enjoy eating it that way? And also, the intermittent fasting crowd is making a lot of claims about not just weight loss, but cell autophagy and your telomeres get longer, just all these crazy claims around intermittent fasting. And that may bear out in the end. But right now, just folks should know that the research does not prove that out yet. So when we take intermittent fasting and we pull out calorie deficit from that, meaning if we take this group that's intermittent fasting and this group that's not intermittent fasting and we equalize their calories, we're seeing the same benefits at a cellular level and weight loss for both groups. So there doesn't seem to be any weight loss magic in intermittent fasting or time restricted eating in and of itself. However, what can really, where I do see great advantage to this, especially talking about weight loss for fasting, is for somebody who maybe they have 2 or 3 beers in the evening. Maybe they are late night snackers. Well, for somebody to get on an intermittent fasting program, say, well, I'm only going to eat between noon and 7 p.m. and that's it. That's my feeding window and all my food has to happen in there. Well, if all of a sudden I'm eliminating some behaviors that were really causing the weight gain or the unhealthy problems to health, then I think that's a good thing. So that's kind of where I fall on intermittent fasting. I'm just kind of watching the research to see how that bears out. Is intermittent fasting really a healthier way to eat when we solve for all other variables? So far, research doesn't show that. However, research unequivocally does show there are health benefits to prolonged fasting. So if you were interested in fasting for some of these other reasons other than weight loss, then looking at 24-hour or 36-hour fast periods periodically, certainly there is some research that states that there could be some biological health benefits in addition to the spiritual reasons and other reasons why people might do that.
My word, Kevin, you and I are so much alike.
Is that right?
But we're so far apart in how we explain things. Because once again, you're extremely eloquent. And my whole thing with the intermittent fast, just fasting period for like 24 hours once a week or something like that. However you want to term it. And I'm not knocking one or promoting another or anything like that. But what you said about if it eliminates, or however you phrase it, the stuff that you're doing that causes you to be fatter or bigger or more
unhealthy or whatever. Yeah.
That's exactly what I always say. I said, listen, if you cut down your eating time or calorie intake between this and this, you're going to eliminate everything else. At least now you're going to be aware of what you're putting into your body. Now, whether you agree with the science or not agree with the science, or even never even looked at the science, the whole thing, at least the way I come across, is you're more aware of it.
Right.
Because what I'm doing now, and it's helped me tremendously, and more of the mental than the hunger thing, and right or wrong, good or bad, it's indifferent to me. But once a week, I'm trying to fast for 24 hours. The first few times, it really killed me. I'm telling you what, but it made me think, so, all right, so what have I been putting in my body that makes me, why do I crave this? Or why do I crave that? To me, it's more of a mental thing. And now 24 hours is a piece of cake doing it. Is it healthy? Don't know. I've never really researched it. I mean, because this as much as I do, you can find research to back your claim, no matter what side of the fence you're on.
Yes, you can. Yes, you certainly can. Yeah.
So for me, what it boils down to is, do you feel like it's benefiting you? If it is, great. If you don't, then don't do it. It's just that simple. Is that something you agree with?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I'm a big fan of 24-hour fast once a month, personally, and then a prolonged fast, a 36-hour fast once a year.
Hey,
that's not really for health benefits. That's more for, and it is and it isn't, right? Because most people, because we live in this food abundance, right? There's no food scarcity. Most people, thankfully, haven't ever really sat with their hunger. They don't understand what true hunger cues are.
Yep.
And I think that even a 24-hour fast, like you said, the first couple of times you did it probably was miserable, right?
Oh yeah.
But most people, we have that convenience of reaching for food whenever we feel whatever that trigger is. And very often it's not hunger, it's something else. It's an emotion, quite typically, right? Is why we're reaching for food, or it's boredom, or it's something. And when we fast, we start to learn some of these lessons we learn about ourselves, right? It's kind of like you said, we're bringing that awareness to ourselves and our bodies. I absolutely love it.
Great, great. All right, let's back it down from fasting just a tad here. Stick with the nutrition stuff, and I have it here. What is your philosophy when it comes to counting calories? Let me see if you and I are alike on this one.
All right. Yeah. So look, you can have the dream body and never count a calorie in your life. However, I am a big fan of at least doing it for a short period of time. And here's why: because I think that everybody should weigh, measure, and track everything they eat at least for a week, probably a couple of weeks, because you want those weekdays, weekends. That will tell you a couple of things. One, it's going to say, what are my average calories? If you don't know that, you don't know a lot about whether or not you should go on a diet or whether you should reverse diet, for example, which is a big indicator of your metabolic health. And the other thing that you get is, now I know what percentage of my total calories. Let's say I'm eating 3,000. I find out I'm eating 3,000 calories a day average. Well, how much of that's coming from protein? How much of that's coming from carbs? How much of that's coming from fats? Well, that would be some useful information for me as well. And then I can go even further down into micronutrients. Well, how much of that's coming from sugar? How much fiber am I getting? And what about my minerals and vitamins? How many of those, what percentage of those am I getting? So you get so much information. Now, do you need to obsess and do that in order to have a healthy body long term? No, you don't. But I think that everybody should do it at least for a short term, just for the awareness that it brings into your life.
Okay, well, finally, you and I are going apart on something. And,
okay.
and again, I'm not against somebody who wants to count calories. If you want to do it, fantastic. I am not that guy that wants to count calories, just for the fact that I'll get too pissed off at myself for having too many calories. And I know that for a fact. I just say, okay, if I'm aware of what I'm putting in and back it off a little bit, that's fine for what I'm trying to get accomplished for myself.
Right on. Intuitive eating, right? Yeah.
Intuitive eating. Right.
Yes, 100%.
But I love your approach. Like you said, everyone should try it for a couple of weeks, 4 weeks, whatever you said.
2 weeks. Yep.
I never thought of it that way, but that's a good source, a good start. Just that way, once again, you know what you're doing. Right.
Yep.
So, for instance, stick with counting calories here. When somebody like gets a banana, how do you determine how many calories in that banana? Because one bananas or apples or fruits or pears, whatever, different sizes. So how do you determine what's in them?
You can drive yourself nuts trying to be exact, and you don't need to be, right? So there are tons of apps. MyFitnessPal is probably the most popular one out there for tracking your calories. And you can go in there and there is a medium-sized banana, and it will say that's 7 to 9 inches, I think. There is a large banana. And if you really wanted to, you could peel and weigh your banana and actually enter it that way. I don't think that's going a little too extreme, but we're not looking for the exact, whether you ate, 70 or 76 calories in that banana isn't really critical, but what we're looking for is more of a broad picture, right?
Okay, great.
And then I'll say this also about counting calories before you even get there. Like I said, I personally believe there's a lot of value in at least doing it once, so you just have this baseline.
I agree with that.
I think you would probably agree to this. Is just, I think if you really want to affect your body composition, you should start with probably what you're eating as opposed to how much you're eating. If we kind of cut out some of those processed foods and things that we know innately aren't good for us, right? Mm-hmm. We know that the sodas and the beers and things like that, they're not serving us well. Those prepackaged foods that are really convenient and on the go, they're not serving our body well. But if we actually eat real whole foods, there's half the battle right there, right? Mm-hmm. So you may be able to manage your weight and your health without ever really worrying about the quantity of food you're putting in, if you're just really, really good on the quality of the food you're putting in.
Now we're coming back together again on this one. Because I say, especially with us over 50 crowd, I'll quit calling us old folks, over 50 crowd, we should know what's good for us and what's bad for us in a broad stroke type of way. For instance, soda pop, not good for us.
Yeah.
If you drink it, it's not good for you. Cut it out, drink more water. Sugar, not good for us. Salt, not good for us. Cut back on it a little bit. One of those kind of things. And so I'm a huge believer of, trusting your instinct a little bit and your knowledge and being adult about it sometimes. You don't go to the candy store and buy a chocolate bar just because, you have a chocolate craving. No, there's a reason for that. Cut it out. If you're wanting to be healthier. If you
Right.
don't, hey, eat all the chocolate you want. But then again, they won't be coming to you and I about something like that. That's for sure.
No.
All right, Kevin, I tell you what, we still got a few minutes here. I got some more questions for us, but tell people how they can reach you and what you have going on.
Sure. Yeah. Folks can just go over to silveredgefitness.com, and I've got a bunch of free resources there. They can download free guides. I also am a host of the Over 50 Health and Wellness podcast. Folks you can just Google that and find it on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. But those are probably the two places where folks can find me. I'm on a mission just to reach as many people as I can with this message of healthy aging, and that you don't have to subscribe to the philosophy if it's just all downhill from here. So just trying to get out and spread that message.
Fantastic. And that's how actually how I found you is I was searching different podcasts and I saw your podcasts on YouTube and some of the folks you interviewed. And that's why I reached out to you and everything else. All right. The main question, well, not main question, one of the last questions I had here is, because I hear this quite a bit, I would assume you do as well. When people come to you and say that they need to get healthier, they need to do something, and you say, okay, I need you to start doing this, whatever that is, and they come back to you and say, well, I don't have time for that. How do you counter the I don't have time excuse?
Yeah, so that's a tough one. You're right. And look, early on in my trainer days, I was kind of that, you're just kind of more hardcore.
Yeah.
We all have the same 24 hours in a day, and you're just not making it a priority. I've taken a softer, gentler approach to that these days. And I say, okay, let's meet where you are. What do you have time for? Oh, well, I don't have any time. Well, do you have 15 minutes? Yeah, I have 15 minutes. You have 15 minutes every day or 6 days a week? Yeah, I have that. Well, let's start there. Big believer. Look, if you're not doing any resistance training and you start doing 15 minutes, 5 days a week, then you're doing way more than you were before, right? And what I find is, and I will literally program 15 minute workouts for clients. And what I find is that a couple weeks, 3-4 weeks into that, all of a sudden they're starting to feel a little better. And they say, okay, well, you know what? Can we make that 30 minutes, or can we make that 20 minutes? Can you add another exercise? And almost always we can build on that. And then what happens is, it goes back to my hardcore stance at the beginning. You're just not prioritizing it. People are like, oh, I see. I should be prioritizing this. And I try to gently explain, look, self-care isn't selfish. You show up as a better human being. You're a better mom. You're a better grandmom. You're a better employer, or a better employee, or you're a better neighbor. You're just a better person overall when you take care of yourself. And taking care of your body is a big part of taking care of yourself. So it's worth making the time for. But as opposed to being a drill sergeant about it, I now try to just meet people where they are. Let's start somewhere. Everybody has even 5 minutes. I've never programmed 5 minutes for anybody, but if somebody told me that's all I've got, I suppose we could work with that, right?
Man, you and I, once again, I keep going back. You and I are so much alike with our philosophy. I'm the same way, because I used to say, well, if you can't, you can find an hour a day. Right. Like you, it's like, well, how much time do you have? You don't have time. Okay, well, how much time can you dedicate to doing something? If it's doing one set of push-ups a day, great, let's do it, and we'll build on that. So you are fantastic. So that's great. So Kevin, once again, thanks for being my guest here at Top Fitness Strategies. And this is Kevin English with silveredgefitness.com. You can find him there. You can find him on YouTube. Is there any other social media out there you want to promote, Kevin?
No, if you go to my website, you'll see all my other socials, the Instagrams and things like that. But that's the main place.
Okay. And now you can add, if you want to, that you've been a guest on Top Fitness Strategies.
I'll absolutely add that to it.
So, all right, I'm going to stop it here. Kevin, once again, thank you for being my guest today, Top Fitness Strategies. And I want to reserve the right to bring you back another time if I ever need you again. So I hope that I can do that sometime.
Absolutely, Andrew. Thanks so much for having me.
Fantastic. Folks, until next time, this is Andrew, the face who runs the place, and his guest, Kevin English. Until next time, ciao.